We got a ShamWow just as I was going to sleep, Quab.
Just as I was going to sleep
I
too.
was
Yeah.
going to sleep,
I
baby.
was man, I was
Long
ready to.
day at work.
I had
It's
to
11. Look at it. I need my contacts in. I'm like, it's 11:49
I had to put on
Eastern
my
right now.
I had to put on my trade hat. I'm gonna be
Your trade hat?
my trade hat.
I was watching BoJack Horseman with a BoJack Horseman shirt.
Oh,
That's how
that's
much of a
fire.
loser I was being at the
That's
moment. But listen, ShamWow goes down. Let's read it. Breaking: the Boston Celtics have traded Jrue Holiday to the Portland Trailblazers for Anfernee Simons and 2 second-round picks, sources tell ESPN. Then Shams tweeted, Portland makes an aggressive move to reacquire Holiday, who the franchise originally received from Milwaukee in the Damian Lillard trade in 2023, and later moved to Boston for a deal that included 2 first-round picks to Blazers. Simons joins Boston on an expiring contract. Okay, so for Boston, this makes complete sense to me. Let's do that first. Boston, they're the quote unquote contenders. I don't know if they're contenders anymore with the Jayson Tatum injury, but now you get someone in Anfernee Simons, someone to me who I think is one of the more underrated offensive players in the league. He can
yeah.
create his own shot. He can go off at any time. He can shoot the basketball. He can drive. Just very talented offensively, scoring the basketball at least. Needs work on the defensive end. You know, the Celtics are built a lot on their defense and rotating and being tight on that end as well. So they're not going to be as tight with him on the floor for sure, but definitely somebody who can pick up the slack, sort of say, now that Jayson Tatum's out. He's not Jayson Tatum by any means, but he's good. He's very good. Anfernee Simons is a very good offensive basketball player. He's on an expiring deal, 1 year left. So if things don't work out, you could trade him at the deadline. If things do work out during the year, you have him for the year. You see what happens when Jayson Tatum comes back. You make an evaluation where we are as a franchise. This makes 100% sense to me from a Boston Celtics perspective. I don't think it takes him, you know, in the upper echelon of like, hey, you know, we're still the Boston Celtics. We still can win the East, especially letting go of someone like Jrue Holiday, who is a defensive anchor,
Yeah.
who is a leader, who is a vet. They are letting go of somebody like that. You know, they are exchanging something here. I do like it for the Celtics. I understand Jrue makes a lot of money. You're freeing yourself up. You're getting underneath the second apron. Am I correct with that, Quab?
Yes, I think it puts them $18 million below the second apron.
So contractually, from a financial standpoint, it makes a lot of sense for Boston. I don't want to say they got better. Maybe they got better off. They definitely got better on the offensive end, but you're losing a lot defensively. Let's not forget what Jrue Holiday brings to the table defensively here. But I do get it. I get it from the Boston Celtics perspective. From a Portland Trailblazers perspective, man, I don't understand what the plan is here. You have a very young team that played pretty well towards the end of the year. I mean, we didn't do a lot of Blazers coverage for the simple fact that they were never really in the playoff race.
Yeah.
And we like to focus on teams that are making noise and that, you know, have not just contenders, but teams that are going to make the playoffs. And the Blazers were just never that. But, you know, towards the end of the year, they started playing better basketball. Scoot started to come around a little bit. Tumani Kamara made our first team dime. I fucks with you, team.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So they are players on the Blazers who we do like. They do have a younger roster that is still learning how to win. And they have vets like Advia and Jeremy Grant, who now you add that with Jrue Holiday, and that still doesn't really do much for me, if I'm being honest with you. I understand maybe you pair Jrue Holiday with Scoot Henderson. Maybe there's some tutelage there, but Scoot's in his third year. You're either going to get it or you don't at some point. I just don't know what the Blazers are trying to do here. Are you trying to make the playoffs? Are you looking for a trade piece? Maybe you can move Jrue Holiday, but, you know, his contract's pretty big and there's a few years left on it. You still have the Jeremy Grant contract that you want to be trying to move. It's kind of confusing for me. DeAndre Ayton's still on the roster. You know, in an Ayton, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton type of lineup, that's okay. Like, it's not scaring anybody in the West. So for me, I'm having a hard time figuring out what the Blazers are doing here. It feels like a move before the move, or maybe something else is coming on the Blazers end. Kwab, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you with on the Celtic side. Getting Anthony is like it's solid for them for the offensive side. Losing Jrue is big because you're losing a big defensive piece of your team. But without, you're not gonna have Tatum for the year. You don't know what the availability and health is with Kristaps throughout the course of the year. It's Al Horford coming back. Like they have a lot of question marks on that
Yeah.
team, but add in a young piece, a young guard who can play in the backcourt with Derek White and also like be in the same lineup with Jalen Brown,
He
like
can run
gives him a
point a little
different.
too, but he's not
Yep.
he's not a natural point guard though. That's what kind of bothers me about this. You just traded your point guard.
I
And
mean,
don't
yeah, he's not. He's not.
now Peyton Pritchard's your best point guard on the roster, which is fine. But I like Pritchard's role off the bench.
Yeah. I mean, like, but I feel like Missoula will find a way to fit him and make it work. I have you have faith in the cycle that is Missoula, so he'll figure a way to make it work all around with them. Especially like I guess with your defensive schemes and make sure it fits somehow. I know he's not known as a defensive player. He's not Jrue Holiday by any sense, but there've been players that didn't have defensive reputations on that Celtics roster that have been able to guard in terms of like guard your yard or just fit in the system. So we'll see how that looks for them. But it is it is like a weird year for a lot of teams in the East, especially the Celtics without having not gonna have Tatum for the year. So this move signals like okay maybe there might be another move we don't know because it seems like they're trying to shed the contracts and get below the apron. On the Blazers side, yeah, trading for Jrue kind of is like it, might feel like a head scratcher. Maybe that just signals that they are full on like starting Scoot finally because Scoot was coming off the bench for Anfernee. I think for most of the year. So maybe this is like you can play him in the backcourt with Jrue. Like you said, they were winning later on in the year, so maybe they feel like, hey, we have a chance. We're a young team, we have a chance. But I mean, you might think that you might feel the way we feel, like, oh, it's not, you're still not there yet. That might not be the internal conversations they're having with the type of roster they have, because they might look around and be like, hey, we might still have a chance. So maybe this is a get a veteran in the room that can impact us in a certain way. Like you said, they still have DeAndre Ayton. Robert Williams is also on the team, but he was injured for most of the year.
Yeah,
That's another
Scoot.
like
They had Shaden Sharp, someone who I forgot to mention as well.
yeah
It just feels like they're on two different timelines right now.
with the
It's kind
different
of
yeah
yeah. It's like you have these veterans like Jrue Holiday and Jeremy Grant, who are two pieces that are coveted around the league, like pieces where it's like, okay, these players can help us win a championship. Jeremy Grant was one of those players that everybody talked about during the trade deadline for like 3 straight years. He goes to
yeah
Portland and everybody forgot about him. But if he
yeah
became available at the right price, he'd be a player that's talked about at the deadline. Jrue Holiday helped two teams win a championship. DeAndre Ayton was the starting center for an NBA Finals team. There's talent there. Avdia had a great year last year. But then you still are like developing Scoot, developing Shaden, developing Kamara. There are other players on the team who, you're trying to bring along and seem like they're a part of your core or you are your core. Simons is one of those guys. You just got rid of him
yeah
for somebody who's kind of like a win now type player in Jrue Holiday. So for me, I do think it is possible. Of course, it's possible to have like a win now team with younger players on the roster who you want to develop later on. But typically, if that's the case, you are like an upper echelon, borderline contending team, and the Blazers just aren't that. You're going to be bad. The Blazers are still going to be bad. It doesn't make sense to be bad with veterans, with big contracts. It just
I
doesn't
mean
make
maybe
sense to me.
is there a chance that maybe with how they play later on in the year the outlook of the team is like, hey, we have a chance to
Yeah.
be like a maybe a play-in like bottom, like, you know what I mean,
But
there's a
that's the worst
chance.
spot to be in an NBA franchise. You don't want to be a playing team.
I mean, why not?
Why? I mean, it depends, right? So, like, if it's like a young team
Hmm.
that's growing with each other, and it's like that's like okay, we're bad, and then we make the play in, and then we're progressing every year. That makes sense. But when you're doing it with the players like Jrue Holiday and Jeremy Grant, who you're trying to get rid of, DeAndre Ayton, somebody else who was also his name has been on the block. These are players that are not going to grow with your franchise. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like, what's the
Yeah.
point? Like
I'll,
if you're doing it with younger players and you're doing it together, that makes sense.
but okay, here's my little counter to that. Like, it's a team that hasn't really won after
Dame, yeah, that's our
getting
Dame
rid of
run.
Dame,
Yeah,
and pivoting that way. So, what is to me? It's like, why not try to start trying to build winning habits and a winning
yeah.
culture. Even though I'm not saying that, I'm not necessarily saying like, oh, their goal is to plan, because they're not like the Chicago Bulls, who always will like they're the team that they will always like be the play for some reason. They always go win enough to make the playing team and then not lose, like they're just stuck in that like weird middle. But if you're a team that has been losing for a while or for a couple of years and you want to start building like a winning habits with your younger players, you bring veterans in, you try to build off what you had last year in terms of like the little run you had and see if there's a chance. And you know what? If it as the season progresses and it's looking like it's not looking that way, then you make trades. You
Yeah, but
make
these
trades at the
contracts are so
deadline.
big. Like Drew's contract's really big, and so is
Hmm.
Jeremy Grant's contract's really big. And I get what you're saying because like that's
Yeah.
something what the Pistons did, right?
Yeah.
You add Tim Hardaway, you add Tobias Harris, you add Beasley, and all of a sudden you have this veteran leadership along with your Isaiah Stewarts and your Kate Cunninghams, and all of a sudden you have this like identity in this team that's going to the playoffs and is a hard out. But to me, the main cog of that team was Cade Cunningham, was the young guy. For the
Yeah.
Blazers, Scoot hasn't taken that step yet. He hasn't taken that leap yet. Shaden Sharp has been inconsistent. Kamara's a nice piece, but he's a role player. Like, if the Blazers are going to do anything, it's going to be because of a Jrue Holiday. It's going to be because, of a Jeremy Grant. Avdia had a great year. He's probably a younger piece that's part of the core as well. But it's to me, when you are, like, for the Knicks, for instance, right? Like, when they had Obi and Emmanuel Quickly, the veterans were like Reggie Bullock, Nerlens Noel, and then
Yeah.
you know what I mean. They were complementary pieces. They weren't the pieces. And I think right now the vets that have big deals are the pieces. The
I
pieces.
don't I don't think they're D
I
pieces
think. I
like,
mean, Scoot's coming off the bench. Shaden
but
Sharp has a lot of talent, but he's had injury. He's had injury problems, and he's good. He's freaking fantastic. I think Shaden Sharp is really good, but he hasn't shown that he's the guy yet.
yeah.
Um, Maybe Advia you can argue is a younger piece, but I feel like when I think about like the Blazers and their starting five and who's going to be out there if they are good, it's going to be Jrue Holiday, veteran, big contract; Jeremy Grant, veteran, big contract; DeAndre Ayton, veteran. Like this team is not the main cogs aren't the young guys in my mind, in my
But
opinion at least.
okay, but then I'm saying like if those are the three and it's like Scoot and Denny, that's like you have to start somewhere in terms of like giving the chance. Like I understand like the point you made with the Pistons, right? Um, they were terrible last year. They broke the losing record,
Mhm.
but then they made the pivot of bringing in some veterans, and we saw what they look like this year. So you have to kind of give it a chance. Like if you have the belief that hey, Scoot can take another step from this, like how he played last year, and like we want to start him because
Yeah,
obviously you're trading away Anfernee, so now he's gonna be thrust in the starting lineup. So you feel like he can play in the backcourt with Jrue, then that's why you make this move.
right.
Now we're like debating this back and forth, and then we might get a notification 2 days from now
Yeah,
or
Drew's
during
gone.
the draft that
Jeremy's
Drew's gone.
gone.
Like,
Yeah.
like none of this matters. We're having like this deep discussion about it, like they're gonna do, and then it's not gonna matter 2 days from now because that's how the NBA works.
That's funny.
But I understand what you're saying, where you like when you're looking at the roster now, you feel like the veterans are the main staple,
Right.
which to me is like that's also fine. But if
It
because
is. Yeah.
you want to surround your young players with veterans, and you want them to get winning. To me, it's all about building winning habits. Or I don't like to use the whole culture that's been like run through, but you want to build winning habits to develop a winning culture. You want them to be around veterans who know what you're doing. Jrue is a player that's two-time champion, like one of the best defensive players, all that like
Yeah.
positives all around. So you bring him in next to somebody like Scoot, so Scoot can learn from him. Like it feels like something. If that's what you're going for, it feels like that's a great piece. That's a great piece to have. So,
I
yeah,
mean, it's not bad. I don't think. Listen, Jrue Holiday's one of my favorite players in the league.
yeah,
I think the Blazers to get better here. You got better defensively. You actually have a guard who can like runch if you need it. Because I feel
yeah,
like the Blazers. Scoot's been developing, and he's. I think he's coming along better than a lot of people think he is. But you have a guard who can kind of like steer the ship now, right? Because Simons to me isn't really a point guard. Simons is a swing guard. He's a shooter. He's a scorer. Like that's what he's. You know what I mean? And so I do think the Blazers got a little better here. To me, the timeline seems kind of murky and weird. And maybe it is right now because they are having discussions about making other moves too. Maybe you are right. Maybe it's like, yeah, the reason why it's murky, Josh, is because we're not freaking done. All
We're
right,
not done yet, yeah.
give us some time to make some moves. So,
Yeah.
just a very interesting perspective there from the Blazers. From the Celtics, losing Jayson Tatum, immediately with the Achilles injury, the thought was, hey, next season they're not going to be contenders. They're in this weird spot. Derek White was on the block. Jrue Holiday's on the block. Al Horford, is he coming back? There's a lot of questions surrounding Celtics. And
Kristaps is on the block.
Kristaps is on the block. So I'm interested. I don't think this is it for the Celtics either. Because to me, I don't think they want Anfernee Simons playing point guard. Maybe Derek. Maybe Derek.
I feel Derek can play in the backcourt.
Maybe Derek. But then you have Derek, Simons, and Jalen as your. I don't know. I mean, Anfernee's really good offensively, like I said. But it just doesn't. I struggle to.
It doesn't move you.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. You're not. Yeah. You're like
It doesn't move me. It doesn't move me. I think it's a fine replacement for a year. I do. And I think if Anfernee's able to, let's just say, for instance, Anfernee's averaging 20 plus per game. It's the trade deadline. The Celtics are like the 7 seed, which I don't think they will be, but just hypothetically.
Yeah.
You can trade Anfernee for some. You can take the rest of the year off. Like, hey, listen, this is not our year. Let's trade Anfernee Simons to another team that might be a contender. Let's get some assets. Let's regroup next year when Jason's healthy. I think I think Anfernee on an expiring deal makes a lot of sense because there's really only upside here. If he plays really well, he plays really well. That's great. And then if he plays really well and your team's still pretty bad, you could trade him at the deadline. Fair. If he plays really well, you try to go on a playoff. You go on a run. And if he plays really bad, you just don't re-sign him. That's really what it is. I mean, this is a gap year for the Celtics. They're playing with house money, I feel like, and why not gamble on someone who, to me, is one of the more underrated talents in the league, which is Anfernee Simons.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a solid gamble. I think for the Celtics, what's gonna come down to we don't think they're done, but if let's say hypothetically this is the move they make and they're done because this puts them below the apron, a lot of this upcoming season is going to come down to their health. Like it's still you still wonder if is Kristaps okay, like because he was dealing with the end of the year was like really weird. Like if you're able to get a healthy Kristaps, you still have Jaylen Brown, you still have Derek White. That's still a good team in the East.
They're good. They're still good. I just don't think they're championship contenders. That's all.
Yeah, but then again, Simons kind of fits into the I don't know how to put the spreadsheet offense that Missoula likes to play. And so like, we're gonna bomb you.
When Simons gets hot, man, when he gets going, bro, he
I mean,
can get going.
Yeah, and that's the offensive side. So like you have that, you have like Sam Hauser.
He's not even close to Jayson Tatum defensively though.
No, not at all. Not even close. We're talking about one of the best players in the league that's not going to be playing next year. Like it's you feel for Celtics fans, you feel for Jayson. So, but he can fit in that offense that when we were like, oh, they shot 83s again, nice. So that might factor into it. But like you said, if it's not going well, he's somebody you can pivot off. Like these are moves I feel like you can pivot off. Even Jrue himself, like there's gonna be a contender that's gonna want him. Like let's say if the Blazers don't want to move off him, there might be a contender that might want him. Now his contract is kind of high, but
it'd be worth it. Some teams that can afford it for sure.
Yeah, there's some team that's gonna look at it.
If the Blazers are terrible, you take on a bad contract for a year. So I guess that's a positive there, but we'll see. I don't think the Blazers are done here after us talking about it.
Yeah.
But overall, I'll give the Celtics a B, and I'll give the Blazers an incomplete. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say an incomplete.
Yes,
what about you?
An incomplete.
I'm on the Kwab route here.
Yes. We're at same. I'm Zach with you, B and an incomplete. Right. That's same. Yep. That's what I'm gonna do.
All right. Well, I'm gonna try to go back to sleep. After I edit this and upload it immediately.
Yes, sir.
If you want to follow us everywhere, you can at the Dime NBA. I'm Josh Rodriguez at Josh_Rodriguez_. He's Kwab at Kwab. Yes. Join us Wednesday night right after round 1. My homeboy, Chris LeBron from Off the Ball Podcast Network and Knicks Fan TV. He does a lot of draft stuff for them. He'll be joining us right after to recap the first round because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know jack crap about anybody who's in the draft, and I'm not going to lie to y'all.
That's a truthful man.
Just
That's
not going to lie to y'all.
I'm excited about the draft because my team has too many
Kwab,
picks. So
it's Kwab's night, yeah. We're finally going to have Kwab's night. We've had some Knicks recaps. We've done other teams. We never really focused on Kwab and the Nets. This is all going to be about you, baby. I'm so excited for you.
They're excited. Going to watch me be frustrated because we don't even know how to tank correctly. So that's why we end up with that number 8 pick. But that's neither here nor there. Excited about Wednesday.
All right, everybody. We'll see you Wednesday. Peace.